All right, what's up, everybody? Good morning. Happy Sunday. Man, easy to wake up today after that Orioles game. Great game, great day. So many different things to kind of touch on, but I feel like the headline has to revolve around Jacob Webb and Sino Perez just bailing out Bradish, and then bailing out Dylan Tate there in the sixth. Just a great team win. Quick little recap as Bradish, just struggled all day, and it happens. It's a long season, and I felt like there's been some bad signs with him because he's walking so many guys. And I even wrote in the little write up yesterday. Tampa is going to work the count. They're not going to hit a ton of home runs. They don't even get a ton of extra base hits. They're missing a lot of guys, but they're extremely well coached, and they're going to work. They're going to work the count. And for Bradish, it was just a nightmare of a day yesterday. And, you leave, the bases are loaded. It's still the second inning. You blew the lead twice. So now we're losing 5-4 when he goes out and bases are loaded. And it says a lot about Jacob Webb that he's the guy picked for that spot, high leverage spot, even though it's the second inning, or excuse me, third inning, it's still a high leverage spot. So Bradish can't make it out of the third. Webb comes in and gets it done, gets the out. The ball was hit pretty well, but we get the out. Then we're done with it. Then he goes and gives us two strong innings, and boom, everything seems like it's fine until Tate pitches a nice, losing track of the innings, but the first inning goes out there. I guess it was the fifth, was solid. Then the sixth inning gives up back-to-back leadoff hits, first and second, no outs. And it's like, man, are we going to do this? No, we're going to let them back in the game. And then Perez just shuts the door. So it was just, man, it's just a great team win, especially on the heels of what's happening here with the pitching staff. So I wanted to give my 2 cents on it. I mean, look, you can consume content. Everyone's going to have opinions. Doesn't mean mine's the right opinion, but I like to offer my perspective mainly as a coach rather than like a fan because – not that I coach at this high of a level, but when you coach and you're the head coach and there's injuries and things happen, somewhat get into the mindset of Hyde and Elias and see what they're thinking. So quick little, I don't know if it's an update, but Wells and Means are done for the season. So there's no more ambiguity or maybe they can come back. It's pretty much the same situation we had with Batista where they're just done. And we can think about the what ifs and what we could have done, but what's more important and frankly more interesting is to figure out what we can do now. Like, what are we going to do with the roster? So it's hard for me to talk about Means and Wells without like kind of rambling and getting borderline emotional because the injuries, especially with Means, is just like heartbreaking. His wife is they're such great members of the community that it's just unbelievable. It was unbelievable that he couldn't be a part of the team last year until the very end. Then he can't pitch in the postseason. Then he gets a setback. And then he's pitching great and he's just done. And you just don't, it's just horrible. Same thing with Wells. He hasn't gotten paid and he was on the verge of getting paid. He's an all-star last year, pitched well in this first start, whatever it was this year. And then it's just, man, it's horrible luck. It's even hard to put in words because when you're not paid, I guess it's one thing, right? You get injured once you're paid, but man, these guys haven't, especially Wells, just a tough one. And then Means is in line for a big check, like a big payday. He's been great. He's getting older, and the future for them is really up in the air. It's really unfortunate. I don't even want to spend too much energy on it because it is a drainer. It just sucks. Life's not fair. Baseball's not fair. Things happen, and it just sucks. So rather than dwell on it more than I already did, I'd rather spin it forward. And what are we going to do? And so there's one positive with both of them being out for the season. It's the same positive that we had with Batista being out for the season is that, there's clarity amongst the roles. You don't have to fit 7 starters in or worry so much about everybody's rest, which it's a good problem to have with Means and Wells, but since they're not here, there is at least a positive of everybody knowing their role. So when you look through the Orioles roster, there's really not a lot of moves to be made at the moment, and we'll see what happens. So let's get that out of the way. Let's talk about what the roster, what we have now, because there's going to be no moves, no significant moves for another 2 months, basically. The deadline's not until January 31st, or excuse me, January 1st, July 31st. And there's just no reason to make a move now because, frankly, there's a lot of teams that are not quite in sell mode. They want to wait another 6 weeks or so before they give up on the season. And the Orioles want to figure out exactly what they have. They don't want to make a move until they know exactly what they need. And look, we're not sure exactly what we need because you look at the starters. Excuse me, and you got Bradish, Grayson, and Burns all locked in, not going anywhere, right? And this is all assuming everybody stays healthy. But those three guys at the top is that's going to compete with anybody and everybody: Burns, Bradish, and Grayson. So if those three guys are ready to go in October, and we have a playoff series, I think we're the favorite against. Man, I think we're the favorite against any other team. Those three guys. So that's the good news. Then another good news is Cole Irvin looks like his spot is solidified. It would be hard. It's nice that we can move him as a long reliever, but I mean, his numbers are just insane. He's going to pitch again today. We'll see because Tampa Bay is a really tough team. They make a lot of contact. I like more of a Grayson or a Burns going in against Tampa to just overpower them. I think Irvin, I don't know. I hope he doesn't struggle today, but Tampa's going to be tough. We'll see what happens. But regardless, his spot now with no means, you want to have a lefty. It's hard to see Irvin not having that starter spot locked up unless he has multiple bad outings in a row. And if you've been watching him, he looks great. He's not going to give you 7 innings. He's usually going to go 5, maybe 6. Um, but man, he looks great. He's a great guy to pencil in as the 4th or 5th starter, and that's where he is. And then the last starter spot, Suarez and Kramer, it's the perfect relationship, if you will, because Suarez, there's no expectations. So yanking him in and out of the rotation doesn't really affect his mood. He's happy to be here. He's happy to pitch anytime he gets an opportunity. What he did Friday night was awesome. If you're watching that game, I mean, that is such a gutsy performance. I love Suarez. I mean, it's hard to bet on him, so I don't talk about a lot of, don't talk about him when I'm doing the props, and very rarely bet on him because his pitch count doesn't get very high. So he's a dicey guy to bet on, but he is awesome. Just absolutely awesome. Great to have him. They won't rush Kramer back. So I'm assuming Suarez will get one more start and then Kramer will be ready. And when Kramer's ready, it's an easy transition. Suarez goes to the long relief role. And it looks like, and now we'll get into the transactions. I'll play GM for a second. It looks like the Thiago Vieira guy is the easy guy to option down. They just got him basically for nothing. They want to see, if they can fix him, if there's some things that's worked. That he came in the other day in a blowout and was pretty bad. They didn't even want to put him in yesterday when we were up 4 runs. So I imagine he's going down when Kramer's ready. And then we'll see, maybe he develops into somebody they can use later in the season. But he's pretty much going to be in the same boat as Hazley, Jacob, the guy that they got from the Royals in the offseason, where they let him have, I think it's been 3 or 4 opportunities, and he just hasn't been very good. So he's down in AAA, and he's not coming back. I think that ship sailed on him as far as, barring an emergency situation. I don't, I just think his stint here with the Orioles is over with. They tried him out. They didn't lose anything for him. It is what it is, but he's not the answer. And then Vieira, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing his name wrong. His first start wasn't great. And now, he's just the odd guy out because as I go back through the roster, he's the easy first guy to send back down, work on. So let's get that out of the way. Kramer comes back. The rotation is Bradish, Burns, Grayson, Irvin, and Kramer. Suarez goes to long relief. And then what do we got? Sorry, I just adjusted myself. And then you got Tate, you got Webb, you got Cano, and you got Kimbrel. Those are the righties. And you feel good about that. Like, it's hard. Where are you going to poke a hole in that? You might want all of them to be a little bit better, but to replace those guys, no, I don't see any of those guys being replaced. I think those are 4 really solid righties. Kimbrel, like, you just look around baseball, there's not a lot of guys that are better, right? Like, you can get frustrated sometimes watching some of our guys And yeah, but there's only a handful of guys that are much better than what we have. We have really, really, really good bullpen. Just doesn't feel like that anytime you blow a game. And if you don't watch every other team, you can tend to get confused about exactly how good we are because we are really solid in the back end. We just are. Doesn't mean we can't have an upgrade, but they're not going to rush the upgrade. They're not going to dump one of these guys in the next 6 weeks, unless there's a dramatic upgrade. They're not going to do it, and they don't have to. Like I said, Cano and Webb, Kimbrel. I mean, it's that's they're not going to move off of that, right? They just aren't. So then you look at the lefties, and I mean Perez and Coulomb. I mean, I don't. They're just awesome. I mean, Coulomb every time he comes out there, he just shuts it down. High leverage moments. He's been great. And then you have Aiken in there, and that's where it gets okay. Is Aiken the first guy that comes down? Because in my opinion, Dylan Tate was the one guy I did, harp on a second ago when I'm going through my righties. Love Dylan Tate. And I don't think he's gotten, there. You certainly don't want to write him off for another couple of months because he's just kind of getting back into the groove, coming off the injury from last year. So you go through the team and you're like, well, who the heck, if I'm gonna trade for somebody, right? Because that's the whole logic. Hey, we got to upgrade the bullpen. We got to upgrade the bullpen. It's like, all right, well, bring a guy in. Who do you want to get rid of? Because I'll go through it one more time. I'm not getting rid of Kimbrel. I'm not getting rid of Cano. I'm not getting rid of Webb. I'm not getting rid of Tate. I like all four of those guys. I don't know how many guys are out there that would be a gigantic upgrade from those four. All four of them do something a little different. Webb and Tate can give you innings. Cano gets you that double play ball, and Kimbrel's got the experience. He's been here forever, saved a million games. I don't think you get rid of any of those four guys unless one of them just bombs for the next 2 months. I like all four of them. And then you go through the lefties, and like I just said, you got Coulomb and Perez. You're not going to find too many better lefties in the whole league. Like you're just not. And Coulomb's old. Like, he's been around forever. And Perez, a young guy, he might be a high leverage. He might be like a casualty that you can't re-sign when you got to pay everybody. I mean, Perez is awesome. He was great yesterday. And then that leaves Aiken, right? I'm going through the double check, make sure I didn't miss anybody. But yeah, assuming that the Vieira guy goes down for Kramer and Suarez goes into that long relief, then you got Keegan Aiken sitting there. And he's been solid. He's had his moments recently where he hasn't been great. He, to me, is the odd guy out. He's the one guy where you can really convince me we're getting a gigantic upgrade over Keegan Aiken at the deadline. And that means you're talking Norby, you're talking Stowers, and you're talking I don't think they want to move any of their pitchers, but Stowers and Norby. And then that's a really, really hard decision for Elias because if you're going to get a top bullpen guy, if that's the move, if you're like, you know what, we want to get whoever the best bullpen guy is, whether it's the kid on Oakland or wherever, whoever is the best, it's going to be really hard to get that guy without moving Stowers or Norby because Kjerstad and Jackson aren't being moved. Mayo won't be moved, especially with his injury. I don't think he was going to be moved regardless. And I really don't think Elias wants to move Norby or Stowers. And that's going to be the question. Is he going to do that in order to get the top bullpen guy that he wants? Or can he dip into, the Judd Fabian category? And I don't know why I had to randomly pick him because there's about 6 or 7 guys that are in the second tier that the Orioles still have a really loaded farm system. So that's really the decision to me when I really break down the team and I look at it and I'm like, assuming there's no more major injuries, what really is the effect of Means and Wells being hurt? And the effect is just less clutter, frankly. Like it just makes it a little easier for Hyde and Elias to evaluate the roster because you go on the AAA roster and you got Bruce Zimmerman sitting down there. You got Brian Baker. Yeah, you got Vespi. I mean, Vespi, I love. I mean, I don't know what Vespi. He's racking up those miles, going all the way down going down to Norfolk and coming back. Vespi seems like the logical guy to come up if, God forbid, there's another injury in the rotation, and Vespi turns into the long reliever because basically Suarez is the 6th guy, and if there's another injury, Suarez goes back in the rotation. To me, Vespi would be the guy to come up. Bruce Zimmerman, they really like him. They might give him another crack at it. And Baker, mean, Baker was on the team the past couple of years, but really struggled in the second half last year and just hasn't really pitched well down in Norfolk. So he's there, but that wouldn't be the upgrade. Like those guys would be there if there's an injury, then we got a double header, something like that. But what's going to happen with the roster is as we get closer and closer to the deadline, will Elias want to trade Stowers, Norby, or the second tier of prospects to upgrade the bullpen? Because I don't believe they're going to upgrade the rotation. To me, it just is not logical to upgrade the rotation because you're going to stifle, the two guys that you have in AAA that you're trying to develop. Like at some point, they want Povich and McDermott to have an opportunity to be starters. And I don't see them trading one of what would take Stowers or Norby. And I keep talking about those guys because that's really the two guys that everybody would want from the Orioles. Like if you call Elias and he tells you can't have Kjerstad and you can't have Jackson, well, I want Norby or I want Stowers. Those are the two guys that probably aren't untradeable. I don't think Elias wants to trade them, but they're not quote unquote untradeable. Whereas Kjerstad is untradeable, and so is Jackson, obviously. So that's the debate over the next 6 weeks or so, figuring out is it worth it to move our prospects for the bullpen guy, but not for a starter. Because I think going into next year, it's an open competition. I think Povich and McDermott are going to have a chance. They're getting too close, before it's either you got to trade them and let them start somewhere else like DL Hall did, or you got to give them a chance. And the Orioles, and that's an offseason question, whether you re-sign Burns and exactly how you want to make the team moving forward. Or for this campaign, I don't think they're going to do anything with the starters. I think they're just going to ride it out with the five that they have, with Suarez being number 6. Excuse me. And knowing that, yeah, if they, I think in a pinch, or Povich was really bad in his last start the other night. But if he dominates, over the summer, they can bring him up and give him a spot start. So I think the rotation is solid. It's the bullpen. It's Keegan Aiken / I guess Dylan Tate. Those are the two guys that are probably. What Jacob Webb's doing, I can do a whole podcast on Jacob Webb. I love Jacob Webb. He is so clutch, just is such a breath of fresh air. No celebrating, will do anything you ask him to do. Close the game, come in the third inning. He's awesome. I don't see him going anywhere. And just for the record, Elias got him and Coulomb for free, like completely for free. Anybody could have had them. He got them both. That's fantastic. So it really, to me, comes down to an upgrade over Keegan Aiken, whether it's a lefty or a righty, depending on who's available. And you would have to package some young guys to get them. We'll see if they do that. They're not going to do anything. Then I'll shut up and get out of here. But they're not going to do anything to the lineup. There will be zero trades. Zero. Knock on wood that there's no major injuries. But there's a 0.00% percentage that if they don't have any injuries here, there's no trades. They got Kjerstad and Jackson down there, and they got Norby. You can make an argument that you couldn't even trade for anybody better than those three guys. And those three guys are just going to stay there. And actually, as an Orioles fan, it's the best thing because if Mateo wants to keep smashing the ball and Stowers is going to play as good as he's playing, then we're just going to ride this team out. Hayes is adjusting to his role. It's really a beautiful thing. Things can change. Hayes can get hot. Cowser can get cold. Mullins can get colder. Santander, obviously hits the home run yesterday. But things are fluctuating. And I think the Orioles are just going to play it out, see what happens, and not rush anything. We'll see, August, September rolls around. I think then then you can make the moves. If you really want to bring Kjerstad up, if you really want to bring Jackson up. But right this second, Mateo's got to start 5-6 days a week. And frankly, Jackson and Kjerstad got to play 7 days a week. So it's just the way it is. Love the team. That feels like a nice little update or my point of view on the roster. And I guess the headline, and then I will go, is I just don't think you're going to see very much. I think despite the injuries and despite sometimes feeling like, man, we could use another arm, that arm's not coming for a couple months. And I don't know if it is going to come. I don't know if we'll need it. We'll see. It probably can't hurt. But if you told me right this second I can have Mason Miller or one of these top guys, but I had to give up Stowers or Norby, I don't think I would. Um, I mean, I love Stowers. I love the way he's playing. Such a great guy. Like he's hustling in the outfield, clutch hits in two games recently. Just clutch hits, especially yesterday. It was a really big hit with two strikes. So, all right, I'm gonna get out of here. Playing basketball here in the morning. Appreciate you guys being here. I will. Yeah, yesterday was obviously a good day, but as I said the other day, I don't. If I go undefeated, that's the last thing I'm going to do is brag. I will brag once I get over 60%. If I can hit over 60% over the season for the Orioles, I'd be happy to brag about it. But, I'm sitting at 52.3%, I think, when I calculated this morning. And that's nothing to brag about. That's just, yeah, whatever. It is what it is. Certainly happy about yesterday. But as I said the other day, just because I go 5-0, I want everybody to listen to what I'm saying, but you don't blindly bet what I'm saying ever. That's just not the right way to do it. So, all right. I hope you guys have a good day. I will be here in the morning. And yeah, go O's. Let's see if we can get the sweep. I don't know why the Yankees have to win every single game. I mean, it is insane. I feel like everybody would be looking at the Orioles in a different way if we are just up 4 games like we should be. But man, the Yankees keep winning. Hopefully today they stumble. And yeah, enjoy the day. Happy Sunday, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.